What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Turn on the Jets podcast, still with very poor special effects as shown by my 1-0 place card written on the back of my fiance's resume with a marker. The Jets are 1-0. This is our Week 1 review. Also going to preview Week 2 Jets-Packers, joined as always by Dalbin Osorio and Connor Rogers. Dalbin, how you doing tonight?
Good, man. How are you?
Two hats behind you. I like it.
That's right. That's right. Two hats because we will soon be 2-0, but we'll get to that later.
Connor, nice and prompt. Are you settled into Hoboken yet?
I'm all settled in. Eventually I'll show the Joe Namath Alabama jersey backdrop.
Nice.
Real comfortable.
Excellent. Well, glad to have you in the local tri-state area.
Yeah, it's good.
Welcome.
Finally a Jersey resident. Feels kind of.
That's right. Welcome. Welcome home.
Welcome home. I'm coming home.
All right. So, as many of us expected, including us three, the Jets did go out and beat Oakland Week 1. I think if you would have showed all of us every statistic except for the score, we would have been very, very happy and probably assumed that the Jets very easily covered, considering they outgained Oakland. I believe it was 408 to 170 in total yards. However, this was a 19-14 game, probably not quite as close as the score indicates, thanks to a late touchdown by Oakland, but this one got a little uncomfortable in the first half, particularly when it was 7-3 and Geno had the fumble inside the 5-yard line. Was there any kind of, panic from you guys, throughout the day Sunday? It was, we were just talking about this before we came on, watching the immediate kind of apocalypse, same old Jets reaction after Geno's interception and the Jets fell behind 7-3 like the season was over halfway through the quarter. But, what did you think kind of at halftime, at least, of the game when I think it was 10-7 Jets at the half, Dalbin?
At no point did I think like, man, here we go. Like the Raiders are going to run us out of the building. I thought that Geno played very well. The interception by Woodson was just a great play by a soon-to-be Hall of Famer. Geno, I think he had said that he trusted his arm a little too much into the window. Like he thought that he could get the ball into Decker, with enough time. Woodson read it and made a great play. The fumble, my frustration was more with Marty's play calling. That's what really had frustrated me. Not so much Geno's play or the running backs or the wide receivers. It's just I thought Marty got too cute, and you can't afford to do that on teams that you should really beat ridiculously. You know what I'm saying? Like ridiculously easy. So at halftime, I was just like, all right, we should be up more. We're not, but I'm not worried. I didn't think that the Raiders were going to come back and win that game.
Connor, what were you thinking around halftime? Did he just fade out immediately?
It never fails, man. It never fails.
This kid knew. Oh, wait, there he is. Oh, there he goes.
What did you think, Joe, at halftime then? I guess while we wait for Khan to return.
As I had mentioned, after Geno's fumble, there was a little frustration getting to set in just because of how much they had dominated the game. They were going up and down the field and getting no points out of these drives. And as you mentioned, Vic in the slot at receiver, the 3-yard line, it was frustrating to see that, and then a turnover come immediately after that. It also seemed like Geno's knee might have been down. But, regardless, the fact that they got that touchdown right before the half with Johnson on the shovel pass and had went up 10-7, it made it a lot easier to kind of, exhale going into the half. The second half started where Copels had that kind of crazy play where Jones-Drew kicked the ball up and it was like 2nd and 25 immediately. And the Jets defense basically dominated from that point out. And it was just a matter of the Jets making kind of that one play to put the game away, which finally came about halfway through the fourth quarter when Chris Ivory broke one out in the open field for a 71-yard touchdown. So I think the Jets dominated in the way that I thought they would, but it was frustrating to see the penalties, untimely turnovers, and the mental errors. In a way, it's good that they were able to overcome those things and win the game still, but the bottom line is that they're not going to be able to beat Green Bay, Detroit, or Chicago with 11 penalties, with the 2 turnovers, with dropping interceptions. So, plenty to learn from this game, plenty to clean up, but a win is a win. Connor, now that you're back in action, what were you thinking at halftime? Jets only up 10-7 at the half, trailing actually for most of the first half. Any kind of panic? Were you frustrated?
It's frustrating because it was the beginning of the season, but I didn't panic at all. I pretty much thought they had it in the bag just because It all depends on the opposition's quarterback. When you look at a lot of the halftime adjustments that are made and the comebacks that are made, it's often against limited quarterbacks. And right now, Derek Carr is just a limited quarterback. When you look at a similar game, and it's a little extreme example, but Chad Henne on the Jaguars, the Eagles just blew them out of the water in the second half. And when you have a limited quarterback, it's really hard to hold leads in the second half. And I knew the Jets would be okay. The end of the first half was really convincing, but I thought the defense played pretty well. I thought schematically they were kind of a mess on Carr's first touchdown. Gimme almost. I think it was Walls that got blocked near the sideline, and they just had nobody behind them. But overall, they just dominated in every asset of the game. And I think the most ridiculous thing of it all is that people aren't giving the Jets any credit because it was the Raiders. When you look at the Raiders' front seven, it's not a bad front seven. I don't understand how you can go out and say, well, it was the Raiders, it doesn't count. Well, yeah, it's the National Football League, so every single game counts. And guess what? The Jets are going to play a lot of front sevens that are much worse than that Raiders front seven, and it probably starts this week against Green Bay. As a defense as a whole, I'm not impressed at all. I didn't like Clinton Dix coming out of the draft, and he couldn't tackle against the run last week. They don't have any other safeties that can play around him. So if Ivory or Chris Johnson get in that second level, they can see daylight. And I really think this is a good matchup for the Jets outside of facing Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I think it was kind of funny, throughout the weekend. The season kicked off Thursday, and all we've kind of been hearing from all off-season from disappointed or angry Jet fans or just Jet fans who are just looking for the team to do poorly this year is just, wait until week 2. What is their record going to be after the first 7 games? Oakland game doesn't matter. They're going to get killed the next 6 weeks. And then all of a sudden, Seattle goes out and kind of smacks around Green Bay, and all of a sudden we're getting tweets, well, maybe Green Bay's a good matchup, and now Lacey's not playing, and now our O-line doesn't look that good. And, it's a matter of also trying to keep perspective. Seattle's the best team in the league, heads and shoulders above everybody. And they were playing at home. Green Bay's still a very good team, probably still one of the 5 or 6 best teams in the league. It is still a very tough matchup. I think the Jets are rightfully 8-point underdogs the last time I saw. That being said, it's amazing how the complexion of your schedule could seem to change after 1 week because Chicago loses at home to Buffalo. So is the Chicago game quite as tough as everyone thought it was? Maybe the Detroit game's now tougher than other people thought it was. Everyone was saying Tennessee was an automatic win late in the year. Tennessee looked pretty good, while Kansas City looked like a much easier game now. So you want to, avoid investing too much in a week 1 outcome. But we knew this was coming. The Jets are facing some good passing offenses, which is going to be a test in their secondary. But Chicago, Green Bay, they got plenty of question marks. And I think when we kind of shift the focus to Green Bay in a couple of minutes here, there should be some advantages that the Jets are able to exploit. And if they play a smart football game, they should be a very competitive game, probably more competitive than a lot of people are anticipating. Finishing up some points on Oakland. Again, not just with the Jets' performance, but there's been a lot of hesitance to kind of, give Geno Smith any credit for how he played on Sunday. That's how it works with turnovers. You turn the ball over twice, particularly in the red zone once. People are going to point to that. That being said, for a guy who was 55% completion percentage last year to come out and go 82%, which leads the NFL. And if you look at those incompletions, you had a drop from Greg Salas on what should have been a 30-yard touchdown, a drop from Jason Morrow on a short pass, the interception, which was on Geno, but still a tremendous play from Charles Woodson. And he was very accurate, very on point. He ran the ball very well again. Converted a 3rd and 13 with his legs, ran for 40 yards. The mistakes have to stop. He took the sack to knock him out of field goal range, but to say there hasn't been really immense progress from the guy we saw couldn't complete 11 passes in 4 different games last year seems to be kind of crazy. Dalbin, what did you think of Geno and the Jets' offense as a whole?
Yeah, sure. I mean, one of the drops was also on Cumberland, where he kind of missed him a little high, and Cumberland got his hands on it though. And the rule, as Joe, you used to be a receiver. You get your hands on it, you got to catch it. He looked completely different. He looked like a completely different quarterback, even than the last 4 games last year, where we kind of felt like he turned the corner. Against the Raiders was probably one of his better games that I had ever seen him play, because he knew when to take off. His releases were quick. He didn't hesitate. He was very decisive with the football. The pass to Salas has to catch that. He has to catch that. That can't go off of his hands. Decker, the OPI, because the numbers would have looked better also, because even Decker on the OPI that none of us really agreed was an OPI, that's a 25-yard gain that Geno would have had, more yardage. You mentioned that he's a guy that last year couldn't complete 11 passes. He completed 11 straight passes to end the game. Like, it's kind of ridiculous to see people who are like, oh, well, he's still not good, just to fit their narrative of the fact that they didn't like him. As a whole, the offense I thought was fine. They used Cumberland a lot more how I thought they would have used Amaro, which was interesting to see. I mean, I was impressed to see that. The running game was pretty impressive. Chris Johnson outplayed Chris Ivory. I know some people are going to look at it and think, oh, well, Ivory ran for 100 yards. But before the 70-yard run, he was averaging 3.4 yards a carry. Chris Johnson outplayed him. And Chris Johnson looked like a very different runner. I think Greg Rosenthal tweeted it earlier, north-south, who is this guy? Because he didn't look like that in Tennessee last year. So as a whole, the offensive line played really well. The receivers played well. What we've been saying all summer came true in the fact that Decker, Curley, Nelson, Johnson, Amaro, and Cumberland, that's who caught the ball. So this whole who's going to be the second or third, it didn't really matter because he spread the ball around enough. I thought they played fine. I thought offensively they were fine.
So good timing on mentioning the tight ends. We'll welcome in Cole Patterson, who just published his tight end grade sheet today. Cole, happy to join us today. Tell us what you thought about the tight ends, Amaro, Cumberland, and Sudfeld this past week.
I think Dalvin kind of hit it on the head there. I was surprised, especially given how much time he missed, how much Cumberland was used in the role we all expected Amaro to be used in. That being said, Cumberland had a pretty good performance. It was one of his better receiving performances, and, as usual, he was a little hot and cold in his blocking. There was one play I think I was talking about. He allowed Geno to get sacked, and then 3 plays he let a run get stuffed or let the defensive end in to stuff a run. But then on a few other plays, he would block his man straight out of the play. I saw him get 1 pancake. It was a mixed bag as far as blocking goes. But from the receiving end, he was productive. 4 for whatever it was, I think 50 yards. And he should have had that one up the seam, which, to be fair, Geno somewhat overthrew, but also Cumberland should have ran through the route. He kind of got turned around a little bit into his route there. Amaro only saw the field on 21 snaps and was only targeted 4 times, of which he hauled in 2. I don't think you can really make a judgment based on the limited sample set, but he was used a good amount in blocking, in which he was much better than advertised. He also had a pancake. He blocked his man out of numerous plays. He was blocking upfield in the run game. He was, teaming up with wide receivers to make combo blocks. It was an all-around impressive game. And Sudfeld was only in for 7 snaps and really didn't make much of an impact. But the 7 snaps he was on, I believe 5 of 7 were 3 tight end sets, which is something we talked about early in the offseason, coming into training camp, how they would use 3 tight end sets to sort of create a mismatch using their height and size. And you could tell because, Sudfeld, Amaro, and Cumberland on all the plays, and they were in with Decker and 1 running back, you could tell that defenses really didn't know how to handle it, whether to commit to the run or to the pass. Well, Cumberland's big drop actually came out of the 3 tight end set, I noticed, which is interesting because he was able to get really wide open over the middle up the seam. He split Justin Tuck and I think Tyvon Branch up the seam for that big miss.
Yeah, I mean, one quick last, and I want to throw it over to Connor on a couple of the standout defensive performances. As Dalbin kind of said, it was really encouraging to see Chris Johnson getting his yards up the middle, basically. I think, if you would look at his stat line, you would think he might have broke a couple runs to the outside. But it was really, north and south, running physically, and, again, very involved in the pass game. I think he had 5 catches on 5 targets. Similar to Jeremy Curley, who had 5 catches on 5 targets. So good to see the Jets so effective in the short passing game. And, Johnson running physically up the middle because we're going to need more of that. Jets are going to need more of that going forward, particularly this upcoming week. Connor, when you're looking at film this week and you're going to do your defensive breakdown, who are you going to focus on, and who stood out for you defensively for the Jets? Obviously, this was a pretty dominant performance from start to finish, but who are a couple guys who kind of rose above everybody else?
Yeah, I briefly went through it, and I'm looking forward to getting in tonight because the coach's film came out midday today. From what I could see on the broadcast version, the line obviously just, they held their reputation. You look at guys like Wilkerson and Sheldon, and Snacks, and even Kenrick Ellis, they never get moved backwards, not once. They always at least hold the point of attack. They know when to shed. They know when they need to get after the passer. The pocket closes. That's one thing that Carr actually did well. There was times the pocket closed, and he kind of seemed like he knew what he was doing for a rookie. I thought, actually, the most surprising performance to me was David Harris versus the run, and not what he did against the running backs, but what he did up front. There's a lot of plays I watched where Harris would run right up the middle, and he would completely take out or crack, whether it was a fullback, tight end, center, guard. He would wipe out the initial blocker, and Demario Davis would come right in and make the tackle every single time, whether it was Demario Davis, Calvin Pace, Quentin Coples, who had multiple free runs to the ball carrier. Harris is an absolute bruiser. He's basically the fullback version of the defense, where he wipes out who's ever in the path, and the next guy gets the ball, whether it's Calvin Pryor, Antonio Allen, a linebacker. So he's my hidden gem from the game. I was really impressed because I give him a hard time because he can't cover and he's not a good sideline guy, but no teams are running up the middle against this Jets team, and I'll say that right now. I'd be really shocked if anybody really has success running right up the middle at them.
Yeah, I think it was an encouraging debut for obviously a secondary that was talked about a lot. Not necessarily that they were tested by the highest end receivers, and Oakland seemed to continue to kind of throw these quick screens out in front of Allen, which would seem to be kind of the worst way to attack him. I would think you want to go after him vertically and see if you can run with the receiver and not test his tackling, which is something that he logically would be better at probably than most corners, considering he's basically a linebacker in college. But again, the Jets did what they needed to do against Oakland. They're 1-0. Obviously, the win was a little sweeter because New England started out 0-1, surprisingly. I thought New England was a 12-13 win team this year. I'm not sure that they still aren't, but it was more, and finally being able to go back and watch some of that game, it was more the way they lost, particularly in the second half. I mean, this was not like a tight game that came down to like the last play. This was, Miami, a team who many kind of pegged as about a 500 team this year, basically steamrolled them in the second half. They ran the football down the throat. They beat up on Brady. So beyond that, you also had Buffalo play much better than expected in Chicago. So maybe the AFC is a little more interesting and tighter than many people expected, or maybe it's just week one being week one. But good for the Jets to start 1-0. Let's flip the focus over to upcoming game in Green Bay, 4:25 this weekend. The Jets, early 8-point underdogs. I think when everyone looks at this vaunted first 7-game stretch, they look at Green Bay, Denver, New England as the 3 kind of toughest games out of it. I doubt you will see anybody anywhere pick the Jets to win this Sunday, and I'm not going to be hammering on any pundits or experts for picking against them. On paper, it is a logical pick to pick Green Bay. They are a team who a lot of people assume to be a Super Bowl contender. It's their home opener. They've had 10 days to prepare. They have a very good passing attack going against one of the Jets' weaknesses. Fortunately for the Jets, I think they're going to be able to run the ball well on Green Bay's front. I think they're going to try to take a page out of what Seattle did to them. And I think Chris Ivory, kind of runs like a somewhat poor man's Marshawn Lynch. I don't want to discount Ivory too much because he runs that physical. And I think the Jets' defensive line should be able to put some pressure on Aaron Rodgers, and they're going to have to because you do not want Randall Cobb out in space on Kyle Wilson. You don't want Jordy Nelson trying to get vertical on, Walls and Antonio Allen. I think we all kind of like those guys. I think there's some potential there, but Jordy Nelson's a great receiver, so is Randall Cobb, and Rodgers is Rodgers. So, my initial reaction is that the Jets are going to go out and have to play, a near-perfect game. No turnovers, no dropped interceptions. Take advantage when the opportunity is there. And I think you'll see a lot of people say that, they need to go out and run the ball 55 times. That's one way to look at it, but they're going to have to score points too because Green Bay is going to score at some point. They're going to have a couple of big plays, so the Jets can't be shy about taking a couple of shots down the field. And we didn't see a deep post or a vertical route really from Geno last week. Everything was kind of short and underneath, so it'll be interesting to see the Jets push the ball down the field a little more. Dalbin, what are your initial thoughts on this matchup? Reasons, for pessimism, reason for optimism. What are you expecting on Sunday?
When the schedule first came out, and I think we touched on this last week, that this was probably like the one game, just because they get Denver at home later, and New England, they always play tough. I mean, they lost by a field goal last year up in Foxborough in one of Geno's first games. So the Green Bay is always a tough matchup. Also, you get a pissed off Packers team because they got smoked by Seattle on Thursday, and that game wasn't even close than I thought it was going to be. I think Cole and I spoke about this midway through the Denver game, how Denver had looked impressive, but and Cole said, let's wait till the end of the second half. And sure enough, the Denver game got close, and Seattle steamrolled Green Bay. I think the Jets are going to run the ball. I think Green Bay is susceptible to the run. It's the way that you neutralize Julius Peppers and Clay Matthews. I don't think that they're going to run it 55 times a game, but I can see them running it maybe 35, maybe 36 times a game. Geno's going to have to take his shots, though, against Sam, and Clinton Dix struggles in coverage, so you want to try to beat them up the seam. I think the Jets have a shot to win, though, man. Because I think Green Bay, you're going to see Rex probably go with 6 or 7 DBs and just play a lot of zone behind the line and just let the line go after Rodgers, because that O-line cannot protect him. And eventually the pressure will get there. It's what happened with Seattle. Seattle wasn't getting much pressure on Rodgers early on, and then eventually it started getting there. So I'm optimistic because of that. I'm pessimistic because it's Aaron Rodgers. It's arguably, if he's not the best quarterback in football, he's the second best quarterback in football. And he's home, and he has Randall Cobb and Jordy Nelson, and so and Jared Boykin. So it's a tough matchup. So I'm pessimistic because it's Aaron Rodgers on the other side.
Cole, what do you think about this matchup in terms of, who are the Jets going to need to have a big game specifically? Obviously, Geno Smith, they need him to play well, but, who out of that, offensive lineup needs to have a big game? And defensively, who's going to be kind of a focus player for the Jets and helping them pull off this upset?
Well, offensively, I think it's going to come down to Chris Johnson and Chris Ivory. I think the big key here in beating the Packers is clock control. You can't stop Aaron Rodgers, really. I mean, I guess the Seahawks did the best that I've ever seen at stopping Aaron Rodgers. And unfortunately, I don't think I would put the Jets defense on par with the Seahawks defense just yet. But so yeah, you need clock control. You need to keep Rodgers off the field as long as you can, and that comes down to an effective running game, keeping it between the hashes, just gashing up the middle. And then on defense, I think you gotta hope to see something from Calvin Pryor, the rookie. So I think you're going to see some expected struggles from Walls and Allen. They're going to be tested much more than they were last week. The James Jones catch, yeah, it was a circus catch, but the thing is Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb make those catches look routine. So you're going to need a lot of help over the top, and I think that's where Pryor is going to come in, and we're going to see how he functions as sort of a deep safety. Maybe they'll bring him down into the box once in a while just to keep the offense honest. But, he's going to be back there. He's going to be playing a free safety role, and he's going to be a much-needed safety blanket.
Yeah, I think when you're looking, for the formula for an upset, and we'll discuss this in our roundtable tomorrow, it always comes down to, and I got to do these for our end cards, it's turnovers. And this is where the Jets have kind of lost the last couple of years and not made the playoffs, right? And we saw it again last week. They had 2 turnovers. They didn't fall on a fumble when they had the chance to do it, and Pryor dropped a pick 6. So the difference this year needs to be is that they need to catch those interceptions. And there'll be a point that I'm sure Rodgers throws one up, and they have to come down with the ball in this situation, and Geno has to protect the ball. I mean, there's absolutely no way the Jets are going to go into Lambeau and beat Green Bay if they lose the turnover battle. I mean, how they're going to pull off this upset is they're going to, grab an interception, or maybe they return a punt for a touchdown or a kick for a touchdown. You usually need some kind of play like that to kind of kickstart an upset, particularly on the road. And when the opportunities present themselves for a turnover, the Jets have to take advantage. They need to come up with a strip sack. They need to come up with an interception, and they need to score touchdowns when they get in the red zone. I think they're going to be able to move the ball probably better than most people expect, but when they get in the red zone, enough with the Vic double reverses. Run the football in with Ivory. Run the football in with Johnson. Use Eric Decker, Jason Morrow, Jeff Cumberland, and Zach Sudfeld's size in the red zone and score touchdowns. And, again, Geno Smith has 4 rushing touchdowns in his last 5 games, or 3 rushing touchdowns in his last 5 games. He's been a weapon in the red zone as a runner, and we saw him much more kind of, we saw the fumble inside the 5-yard line off that kind of weird play where, Vic was in the slot and he moved to the right and and didn't tuck it away. But, Jets got to get 7s when they're in the red zone, and they got to come up with turnovers. Looking around at the rest of this matchup, it was interesting. Coples had the big play where he led to the, ball being kicked up by Jones-Drew, but, Babbitt had a sack. He also had a couple of pressures. Do you think this could be a situation throughout the year? And I'll throw this one to you, Dalbin the star. Actually, I'll throw it to Connor the star now that he hopped back in. Connor, we're talking about the Jets pass rush and, Babin, really kind of having the sack and also having a couple other pressures. And Coples, at least in terms of rushing the passer, being a bit quiet. Do you think we're going to see maybe more Babin and less Coples, or more of a 50-50 split as the season goes on? Or do you think Babin, just kind of stays to being a 10 to 12 snap per game guy?
I think that would kind of negate the whole purpose of Babin. I think he's the kind of guy that he's better when he has, that high energy effect. What I'm really curious to see is when Antoine Barnes is back, because I think you keep Babin at his current snap count now because Coples has been so good against the run, and people fail to realize that, is that the X factor of the Jets' run defense is Coples right now, because you have so many good that play the run like Sheldon, Moe, Snacks, Harris, Demario Davis, that a lot of the times they test Coples by just choosing to not block him for whatever reason. I've seen it multiple times. And he just kills people. Like, look at what he did to Maurice Jones-Drew when they just said, all right, we're not going to block him because they thought he wouldn't get in the backfield in time, and he should have made a play there. Like, honestly, that was a perfect play, and the Raiders got the luckiest fumble recovery in the world, but not one article or New York media has brought that up, that Maurice Jones-Drew punted a fumble to his quarterback, and that's not lucky. So it's just absurd how there's a narrative, and shout out to Jason Keatle or whatever who wrote that the Giants are better than bullshit article that I read in my entire life. So, yeah, so I definitely...
finally put him to sleep today. I think that was the fortunate.
Yeah. So back to the simple question of Babin getting snapped. No, I definitely like where he's at. He doesn't play the run well. He does really well, though, in the 15th snap, rush the passer per basis. I think the X factor, though, is seeing if we can get Barnes back on the field and try to get both of them on each side, lining up wide 9 and see what they can do.
Yeah, I think, that is a guy that I think a lot of people can forget about, that Barnes is going to hopefully come back off the PUP list and go back to being an impact player off the edge. And, just another weapon for Rex Ryan. I think Dalbin kind of mentioned this. I wouldn't be surprised if we did see a lot of zone and a lot of Rex trying to keep everything in front of him this week, where it's, force Green Bay to go down the field in 9, 10, 11, 12 plays. Very similar to the game plan we saw against New England in the divisional round, 4 years ago, where it was, let your front get after him, drop everyone else in coverage, and, hope that they make a couple mistakes. That could be the approach he takes. I'm not sure the Jets are necessarily going to be, heating up that 7-man blitz all that much and trying to leave all their guys in coverage. We still don't know the status of D. Milliner, and even if he does play this week, it's fair to temper expectations. The guy's missed the last month with a high ankle sprain. There's going to be a transition period when he comes back, and it would not surprise me if he waited till week 3 and took the extra 8 days to get ready for Chicago. So that will be interesting, to see if, Allen and Walls, how they hold up when they really get tested. Guys, I think what will be interesting this week, and as the Jets, let's say the Jets go out and play well, but lose by 7, lose by 10, it's a competitive game. I think, there'll be a solid week of very heavy criticism on Idzik about the secondary, about Geno if he has another turnover, and I think that's just something that's going to be part of it and part of the Jets season. And when the losses come, people who are quiet during the wins are going to get out all their angst while they can, and then hopefully there'll be a bounce back the following week with the win. But I think, like all of us said, that this game is certainly not one to just write off. We've seen the Jets pull off upsets in the past few years under Rex Ryan. So, Dalbin, ultimately, when it comes down to it, what is your prediction for Sunday? Maybe not even necessarily just a prediction on stats, but maybe a couple player predictions and who to watch for.
Sure. Okay. So Khan mentioned Coples and Babin, but I thought Trevor Riley played really well also in the limited action that he saw. So I think that him and Coples actually played really well together. So I predict 4 tackles for Trevor Riley and a sack. Geno, I think 225 yards, 70% completion percentage, 2 touchdowns. And I think Chris Johnson runs for 100 yards. I think that, like Cole said, it's a bad matchup for the Packers to be asked to stop Chris Johnson and Chris Ivory. And I think Chris Johnson's going to be the benefactor, 100 yards rushing, 50 yards receiving. And I'll go out on a limb. I think the Jets win 24-21.
Upset
Yeah.
alert.
Yeah, because it's like I get why you think Green Bay should win, and I get it. But the Jets were supposed to lose on the road against Atlanta last year also, and they went in there and housed them in the first half before Atlanta made a run and came back, and the Jets won by a field goal. Green Bay's not unbeatable. The Jets can beat them, and I think they beat them on Sunday.
Connor, what are the odds of an upset this weekend, and just how big of an upset would it be if the Jets went into Lambeau and stole a win and started 2-0? Connor.
Oh, I thought you said Cole.
It's deceiving. You're killing me.
Well,
Cole?
Cole texted me and goes, nice red Solo cup, chill, bro. So
Are you drinking during the podcast on a Tuesday?
no, it's water. That'd be no. Seriously, back to your question. The problem that I have with this game is that it's on the road. That's a really tough trip in Green Bay, and as Dio mentioned, Green Bay's got to be hungry for a win. I mean, this is not a team that anyone would expect to start 0-2, but obviously Seattle is just worlds above. I think the Jets have a chance, and I think it's as what we've said. We've been into the ground. They got to run the ball, but I mean, the biggest thing is you got to take a chance to win this game, and whether that's throwing downfield to deck, getting a Morrow in the mix, or trying to hit something different. They got to take a chance to win this game because they're going to run the ball well, and I think they're going to contain Green Bay's run game. But the bottom line is, and fans are going to be disappointed, and the media is going to be an outcry. Green Bay's going to hit a big play over the Jets secondary at some point in this game. It's the inevitable, and the Jets are going to have to score points. So, I mean, I put the chances at the Jets winning this game at about 40% just because it's on the road. I think it's a really honest, even matchup. I think Rodgers is great, but I just don't like Green Bay's defense at all. But I say 40%.
Cole, what do you think about this weekend? Prediction, a couple guys to watch out for? What do you feel on this game?
I think it's going to look closer on the scoreboard than it ends up being. I like the idea that the Jets can use a similar blueprint to what Seattle used last week, specifically on offense, but because on defense they just don't have the horses to pull it off. But I think Green Bay's defense is there for the taking. That being said, I'm thinking something along the lines of like 28-21 Green Bay over the Jets. The Jets are going to have to put up points. They're going to have to try and keep up, but the truth is I think Rodgers is just going to put up more points, and the Jets aren't going to be able to keep up. I think if the Jets are to win, keep an eye on the pass rush, get Rodgers uncomfortable, get him moving around, and then hopefully, the safeties, like I was saying before, Calvin Pryor, hopefully somebody can take advantage, because the truth is Walls and Allen are, they're going to be harassed a little bit. They're going to be tested much more than last week, and it's going to come down to not giving Rodgers enough time to truly take advantage of the cornerback issues.
Yeah, I think I'm going to wait to see what the final call ends up being on Lacey and, maybe with Milner. But I think, as of now, again, it's only Tuesday. I'll probably pick the Jets to lose but to cover an 8-point spread. I think this will be a tight game into the third quarter, into the early parts of the fourth quarter. But like Connor said, there's going to be a point in this game where Green Bay hits a big play over the top. And I'm sure the Jets, I could very easily see the Jets losing by 7 to 10 points, and everything is focused on that one, 60-yard touchdown they gave up that ended up being the difference. And that's part of playing Green Bay. Green Bay's going to do that to a lot of teams this year, not necessarily just the Jets. I don't think it's crazy to think the Jets could pull off an upset this weekend, but let's hope that this is still a younger team. Let's hope they go in there feeling no pressure. They go in there loose against a Green Bay team who does really need to get a win now at 0-1 and at being pretty banged up and a little shooken up, I think, after that opening game. And maybe the Jets go in there loose and are able to pull an upset. And, if they were able to do that, it would be, really a great start to their season, especially now coming home for 2 weeks after that. Ultimately, I think I'll probably pick them to lose a game that will be, somewhere between 7 and 10. But, let's see what happens. With the site, today we had Dalbin ran out his running back grade sheet. Cole ran out his tight end grade sheet. I'm going to drop our gifts from the week tonight, and then tomorrow we'll have our roundtable, our passing game breakdown, and then tomorrow or Thursday we'll have Connor's defensive breakdown. Both of those will kind of include a peek ahead to Green Bay as well, and then we'll kind of shift all gears into focusing on breaking down that matchup. Before we sign out, guys, you just want to throw around one Twitter handle or follow in season. It doesn't have to be Jets. Could be, Packers guy. Could be just a general NFL guy that you saw from week 1. Dalbin, you got anybody? And give the people your sign off for the night.
Sure. Jason Keatle at Jason Keatle. He's the guy you want to follow because, and mind you, I read his stuff. I think he's fine, but nobody in their right mind thinks that the Giants are a better bet to be better for the next 5 years because of some Super Bowls they won 30 years ago. Follow him. Give him all your vitriol.
Connor, what do you got?
All right, I'm going to give mine to somebody that everybody should be following, everybody that really just loves the game of football. It's Matt Bowen, at MattBowen41. He's actually a coworker of mine. He does excellent work, and I definitely, if you want to know anything schematically that's going on in the NFL, the guy knows more than anyone right now, and he's a former 8-year veteran, so definitely check his stuff out.
Cole.
I can't think of one off the top of my head. You caught me off guard.
Thank you, everybody guessing here. Most people probably follow him anyway, but obviously if you're looking for good Packers insight this week, Aaron Nagler is a good follower, has a good pulse kind of on the fan base, what's going on there. Always an interesting guy to follow. I think he's over at Sports Illustrated now. Guys, thanks for tuning in. We kept it under 40 minutes.
Nice.
I gotta go eat dinner. I'm starving. And we will forget the time, fellas. We will watch one of these games together in the coming weeks. I know Cole's working these 17-hour days. Madman, but we'll make it work for one of these weeks. Guys, thanks for joining me. Everyone, thanks for listening. And go Jets.
There we go.
All right, let's go Jets.